Hello and welcome to the Masters Swimming Podcast, available on all the major podcast platforms and on YouTube. I'm Joe Malone, and joining me this week is serial record holder Julie Hoyle. So how are you doing, Julie?
I'm good, thank you. Nice to meet you, and thanks for having me on.
No, you're welcome. It's great to get you on, and you had a cracking year last year, and obviously we'll get onto that later. But so you swim for Harrogate District Swimming Club. So you must be based up in Yorkshire.
Yes, I live in North Leeds, and actually don't really train at Harrogate. The Harrogate pool is closed at the moment, and the kids are all over the place with different sessions and so on. But at the end of when lockdown happened and the pools were opening, the David Lloyd near us was opening before the council pools, and it had very few restrictions compared to trying to get a swim at council pools, which sounded like an absolute nightmare. So a group of us, because it was really handy as well, it's only 10 minutes away, we got together and joined David Lloyd, and we've been there ever since.
Ah, brilliant. I know there's a few kind of sort of David Lloyd squads of people around the country. There's one in Derby, actually. There's a number of master swimmers, very good master swimmers that kind of get to
Right.
a few times a week and train at that one. So now that's really interesting. So is that the dynamic of your swimming training at the moment? It's all at David
Yeah,
Lloyd. Do you ever
it's
go?
all there.
Yeah, have
Yeah.
you ever swam with Harrogate? I know they said the pool's closed at the moment, but prior to
No, because it closed sort of straight after lockdown.
yeah.
But they've been really welcoming, and we're in contact, and um, they will send messages, and
Mm.
it's good. And there's hopefully going to be a little bit of scope for us to swim there sometimes when the pool opens again, but it's not going to be before September.
Interesting. So if you guys are off at David Lloyd at the moment, there's maybe a small number of you. How big is the club? How many swimmers does Harrogate have?
Um, with all the kids, I don't know. In terms of masters, there are, well, we swim at David Lloyd. Some of us are masters competitors. Some are just want fitness. Some are triathletes. We've met people there and welcomed them into our little group.
Mm.
There are a group. The masters at Harrogate have one session a week, and I think there's probably about 10 people
Okay, but and
go
you
there. So
all
everybody
train,
can't go there because there's just not room.
yeah, and but you all train at David Lloyd together, do you? All
But
the
yes, there's this group of us train there. There's probably about 15 or 20 of us.
okay.
But one or two, like I say, just fitness people, but we're trying to persuade them to. We've got a couple of people who are going to be swimming at Carlisle and Blackpool who've never swam for years and years who've come and joined us. So
Mm.
that's going to be really nice having new people.
Definitely. And how do you find it? Like, do you have a coach that's there on poolside with you at David Lloyd, or do you set your own programs?
Yeah, yeah. I haven't had a coach for years and years and years now. Um, Sadly, really, but it's just the way it's worked out. Um, so we haven't got a coach, but we've got two people who one of them is actually a coach. He does coach the children. He just doesn't coach us from the pool side. But there's two of them who are brilliant at organising us, and they give us a session for every day of the year, and organise us. And so you'll always turn up. One of them is always there every single day. I don't know how he does it. um, and the other one's there most of the time. But you can turn up every day, and there's always a session.
That's amazing. So how many
So I
sessions
know.
do you tend to do?
So sorry.
How many sessions do you tend to do per week?
Now that I've retired, I've been able to swim a little bit more. So I'm trying to do 4 or 5 a week,
Mm.
but I can't do any more. I can't recover enough.
And interestingly, then, if you don't have a coach like that's there with you, but they are providing you with sets, are they? I mean, I'm sure they're very good sets, but are they quite generic across the year, or do they try and look at it and say, well, you've got competition coming up, so let's work on these things that are maybe race specific? Is it what's the kind of dynamic of the?
Yeah, they're quite generic because of the variety of swimmers. But they do also look and go, right, well, because it's not just me that competes, there's quite a few of us, and they will look towards that and say, well, maybe we'll try this and that there. Because I'm more of a sprinter than some of the other people, I just kind of adapt the sessions.
Okay.
So if it might be that's coming up to a competition and I want to do some really fast 50s, and I just do that. I go at the back and I do a fast 50, and then I wait till they've come around again and go again. And as long as I'm not getting in the way, everyone's, nobody's really got a problem with that.
Yeah,
This month, with it being like winter, I've been trying to do of the whole sessions.
yes, yes. No, that's brilliant. And so I mean, I've been to the David Lloyd in Derby, as I mentioned earlier, a few times because my parents are members there. And you have to pick and choose your times to go because it can be very busy, but then
Yeah.
likewise it can be very quiet. So do you have to be quite selective about when you go?
So, we swim at 6 o'clock every day. I mean, I don't go
AM
every
or
day,
PM?
but AM, yeah.
AM, wow.
So we just get in there and take 2 lanes. Um, and that's it. I think, I'm retired. I could be having a lie in now, and I'm getting up earlier than ever because it's much nicer to swim with people.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. And
It's
just
good. It
touching
gets you
on,
going for the day.
yeah, definitely. Just touching on your retirement, you're a school teacher, right?
Yes, primary teacher
Yeah, excellent. So
for 35 years.
yeah, yeah. So and the swimming was always just a hobby on the side, was it?
Yeah, it was just really hard to swim sometimes because it was so busy. Um, just, well, all jobs are time consuming and busy these days. But I used to be able to swim in a morning and then I could do 38 minutes. It was really precisely timed, and get back to work for 8 o'clock, quarter
Yeah.
past 8. But then traffic just got worse and worse, and I just couldn't get back in time. So I had to stop swimming in the morning. So it was, yeah, it was tricky sometimes.
Mm. Yeah, no, that's fair enough. So have you always swam since being a kid, or have you had kind of like periods in and out?
Yeah, I've had periods in and out. I started when I was 10 after winning the Brownie Gala, 3 wits front crawl.
Oh, great.
My uncle said, "Oh, you should join the swimming club." My mum and dad were, "Oh no, no, another fad." But it's been a lifelong fad. Uh,
Nice.
so swam then. When I got to about 17, I hurt my shoulder and probably just didn't know enough about it, didn't rest it enough, and ended up giving up then when I was about 18.
Okay.
And then a bit later, I went on to playing a bit of tennis, and I hurt my ankle and I couldn't play. And that's when I thought, oh, I could probably swim. And I got in a few public sessions, and then I thought, well, maybe join the masters. And I was 29 then when I started again. Bit in and out in my 30s. I had my son in my 30s. In my 40s, it was really difficult. Maybe swam once a week on average. Sometimes I might get a couple of sessions, sometimes I wouldn't get any. Hated it, absolutely hated it. You know what it's like when you go once a week
Mhm.
and you just, every time's like starting all over again. And every time I thought, oh, I'm not going again. But I did. And then when my son got a bit older and I could pick up a couple more sessions, it was amazing how much quicker it came back. And that
Mm.
once a week, I'd had actually been doing something, even though I didn't feel like it at the time.
Yeah, I can relate to that because I've basically been swimming twice a week ever since I was a master swimmer, and I became a master swimmer when I was 23. I think I'm 30 now, so for about 6, 7 years, just twice a week. And I've recently started doing like 3 times, sometimes 4, but pretty much 3 times a week. And oh my God, that extra session,
It makes a massive
I
difference.
feel like a new man. But actually, that those 2 sessions a week were foundational, and you don't realize it at the time,
Yeah.
but they were
Don't
foundational.
think they're doing anything, do you?
Yeah, exactly. No, so it's oh, that's brilliant. So
I always say that to people now, if you can just get in a little bit, do it, because it is doing something, even though you don't feel like it at the time.
yeah,
And
just
then when I was coming up 50, somebody helpfully said, "Oh, you really should get back into racing." And I was like, "Oh, I don't think so." But I did. And then, of course, I got hooked again.
yeah. Well, I mean, we'll go on to talk about your achievements since getting back to racing, but it sounds like a very good achievement when you were a brownie there with those 3 wets. So a big congratulations from me for that one. So no, that's great. You set well, I was having a look at your master's best times, and you set most of your best times that still exist to this day in 2015. I mean, was that you've talked about being in and out for a number of years? Was this a particular time where you'd not long come back in, or did you just have a a big training camp and do loads of training all of a sudden? Like, what was the secret to that year?
Yeah, well, none of those things really. I got back into racing when I was 50, and then by the time I was 51, which would have been 2013, I felt I was starting to really swim well, and I just seemed to get improve every year
Mm,
throughout my 50 to 54 age group.
it's
Maybe
brilliant.
because I hadn't done so much in my 40s, and the more you race, the better you get, I suppose.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, none of those things really. It just seemed to have been a really good year.
Yeah, I do
Yeah.
think there's something in the idea that, and everybody's different, so their mileage would be different. But the idea that everybody's almost got a certain amount of mileage in them in terms of a lifespan, and actually, if you either start swimming later in life, as in some people start when you said you started when you're 8, 10, whatever. Some people might not start till they're 15, but also as a master's swimmer, if you don't swim much, say for 20 years, you're just dipping in and out, you're not
Mm.
putting many miles on the clock. So if you then suddenly at 40, 50 start putting in the work, you've still got so much more to give in terms of the improvement. Whereas if you just swim relentlessly all your life, you probably do hit a point, don't you, kind of in your 40s where you've just not got many more miles to give, and actually finding those improvements would be so hard to come by.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought of it like that, but that really does make a lot of sense, I
Mm.
think.
It's,
Yeah,
it's
that
it's
you
something that,
haven't overdone it
yeah,
when you're on and burnt yourself out. I think also coming back when I did my first race when I was 50, I kind of really surprised myself. I didn't think I could swim that sort of time. And that then made me think I could probably get faster again. And I think when you have a bit of time out or away from it, it's it has that it gives you more impetus
yeah,
to come back. Whereas if you just keep going forever, I mean, I'd like to keep going forever, but um, you don't have that new impetus, and that probably helps as well.
I completely agree. Yeah. So 2017 then, like I said, 2015 was when you got most of your, what's down to this day, your kind of fastest times as a master swimmer.
Which
But
I didn't
20,
even know, and you've shown me those.
but 2017 is a huge year for you because you suddenly find yourself getting British records. Now that is something not many people achieve at all. You'd only got back in the water a few years earlier. I mean, so you said you kind of got this hook, you got this impetus. Did you expect to maybe go that fast?
um, well, based on the year before, then yes, because I wasn't accepting that I might get slower. And I think having gone faster from 50 to 54, I still thought I probably could at 55.
Yeah.
And of course, it's new records then. So, in that respect, yes, although I did a couple of swims that I don't know how I did really. I was really happy with, especially as it was a bit of a difficult year, was 2017, because I had quite a lot of time out with a shoulder injury, and it was the Worlds that year. And I felt nobody was putting me under pressure, but I felt under pressure to get there, to have all this time out and get there, because we had some relay teams and somebody was just coming over for the relays, and I just felt I've got to be there. I can't let them down and not be there. So I was put myself under pressure to get there, and I guess I'd wanted to swim better
Yeah.
and do, and I mean I did all right. I did okay for where I was, having had that time out. Um, but we did manage the relays, which was great, and we got a few medals, and that was lovely.
That's fantastic. Well, three of your British records from the 55 to 59 category do still stand. So the 50
They
backstroke.
would be 50 back.
Yeah. Can you guess the other two?
Um, no, not the 100 back, not the 200
Oh
back.
no, the 100 back still stands.
What does it?
It does, yeah.
I only did 100 back in that age group. That is the only one I did because I had a lot of time out after
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So
So,
that's the only one I ever did. Does that still stand?
so the
Crikey.
50 and the 100 back still stand, and then there's one other. Can you guess that?
100 IM.
You got it. You got it.
Yeah,
100 I
yeah.
am. So the 50 back, if you don't mind me reading your times
And
out.
that's short course. The 50 back long course, I think, still stands.
Yeah, so it's 33:37 for your 50 back. It's 112:64 for your 100 back, which is phenomenal by the way, and 113:77 for your 100 IM, which again is absolutely rapid. It's so good. I mean, I'm very much a believer in hard work trumps anything else, and as long as you learn how to swim and you can swim efficiently, anybody can get good with hard work. But I also very much believe in if you're good, you're good. And it sounds like you fit in both of those categories. You are
Oh,
naturally a
thank you.
very good swimmer, but obviously you put the work in as well. But to come back and get British records this quickly, you must have been born a swimmer.
Well, I don't know when I won the Brownie Gala, I'd come dead last the year before.
Right.
I'd got in and thrashed about, and my dad went, "Oh, no daughter of mine's going to swim like that." And he took me to the pool and taught me.
Brilliant.
But apparently, when he took me to the swimming club, the coach there said, "She looks like a swimmer. She
Mm,
looks like a natural." But that's all I really know about that.
that's
It does.
brilliant.
It does. What I will say is, when I've not been in for a while and I get back in, it feels like I've come home. It just
Okay.
feels right, yeah, to be in the water.
Oh, I love that. That's brilliant. So getting British records then in 2017, I mean, you talked about you got the hook when you came back in 2015. I mean,
No, that was 2012 when I
sorry,
came back.
2012. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 2012, you kind of, you got the hook again. But I mean, my God, getting a British record must have given you one hell of a buzz to just want to never stop.
Well, yeah. It's strange actually because I actually broke my first British record when I was 30,
Okay.
and I'd just come into masters the year before when I started again, and no internet and all that. I had no idea, and I swam this 100 back at Darlington Dolphins meet. And about 10 minutes later, I'm on poolside and they announced it. And I had no idea at all. Um, and then not another one till I was 51.
Mm.
Yeah, 51. But that was a bit of a strange one because in that 50th year, I was looking at, I'd come in, I'd gone 35.2 in my first swim. And I thought, ah, really pleased with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I think I went 34.9. And somebody said, "Hey, British record's only 34.3." And I went, "Yes, but that's quite a lot of time to take off on a 50." But then in my head, I was going, I wonder if I could do that. And then I think I went 34.7, 34.3. And then at Nationals, I went 34.2. And I thought I'd broken it and I was over the moon. And then I discovered that somebody else had broken it to 33.9 the 2 weeks before.
Ah,
And I thought, oh, well, there's no chance of going 33. So I forgot all about it.
yeah. Yeah.
I went and swam a little gala in the February and went 33.8.
Wow.
So maybe it was because I wasn't thinking about it, but
Yeah.
it was a real buzz. But I don't get me wrong, it is wonderful to break records. It's great, but at the end of the day, every time someone does a PB, that's a record.
Of course it is. Yeah.
I mean, I'm never going to break a breaststroke record, but if I do a good time, I don't do it very often, but I'm really pleased. And I always say it's lovely to win. Obviously, you want to win, but I don't mind getting beat if I've swum well.
Mm.
So it's not about, I don't like to think I'm chasing a record when I go swimming. I just want to swim as well as I can, really.
Yeah, no, that's a really good attitude, and I think probably helps take some pressure off. And actually, interestingly,
Yeah.
something that you
You
broke
just
that
don't want
record.
that pressure, really.
No,
Yeah.
I think especially when it is your hobby outside of work. Why put the pressure on yourself? If it was your full time job, then I guess it makes sense.
But we
but
do, don't we? We all put that pressure on ourselves,
yes,
whether it's a record, a British record, or a European record, or a personal best record.
mm,
That's what we do, isn't it? We all put it's nobody else. It's just we do it, don't we? We put the pressure on ourselves to
yeah. So
swim as well as swim.
various British records. Then, have you ever had a European record?
Yeah, lots of those
You
actually.
have?
Yeah,
Yeah,
most,
yeah,
most
brilliant.
of those last year
Okay.
were European records as well. All the backstrokes were European
Yeah.
records as well.
Yeah.
I'll never break a world record.
Well, you never know. I should have.
Well, I've got Colin Pipes and oh, what's the other lady's name? I've forgotten her name now, just gone off at the top of my head. Well, they're the same age as me. And I think they've both broken something like 100 world records each.
Mm.
So that's never happening.
Wow. Well, I mean, that's very impressive.
Oh, yeah, they're amazing.
So the common theme here is the 50 backstroke. You've
Yeah.
got other British records, blimey, but I mean the 50 backstroke seems to be like. Would you consider that your best race?
I think up to last year, I didn't think it went very well last year, apart from nationals, and something went right at nationals. Um, but yes, up to then, I really think that was probably my best event. Yes. Well,
Can
no,
you?
I still think it could be though. I'll
Yeah,
get back to it properly.
yeah. Can you talk us through your 50 backstroke then? So like, do you go underwater for a long time? Do you like to come up quickly?
I've kind of taught myself that little bit of underwater because you have to try. Um, I'm very much I'm not a backstroke starter like that, to push.
Okay,
But then I try and stay under for about 8 kicks. And what I do on backstroke is I count all the time,
you count. Yeah.
count the strokes all the time. So I know exactly where I am when I'm coming to the flags and so on.
So on a short course, then how many strokes are you on each length?
Um, on a 50, on a
Yeah, 50.
50,
Sorry, yeah.
I'd be 14 to the flags and then 4 in. And then I'd try and do 3 kicks out, and then usually 18 to the flags and then 6 in to the wall.
Okay. And do you like to finish with a big long stroke where you really dive backwards, or do you like to stroke it out as many times as you can until you hit the wall?
No, I try to go back to
Yeah.
it, like you say. Yeah,
No, brilliant.
it's strange because um, I had quite a bit of time out until last year, and then my stroke rate has not been the same on the 50 or the 100 or the 200. My stroke rate's not quite the same. I haven't quite got it back to what it was.
Okay,
It
interesting.
seems to vary.
So is that something that you work on in training then? The stroke count? Do you often do sprints where you're like the drill here is to hit X amount of strokes?
Um, I wouldn't say it's drill really. I think I know it kind of started because I thought if I count my strokes, I know how much pain there is left till I finish. That's where it really came from. So I know when I'm at 10 strokes on that last length, I'm like, I'm nearly there, I'm nearly there. And it was all about the pain, really.
Yeah, yeah. So you turned 60 last year.
Yeah.
So obviously that meant a new age group. But what that brought with it, of course, was an awful lot of records. And you said yourself European records as well, which is absolutely fabulous. So we've got the 200 free, we've got the 50, 100, and the 200 back, and the 100 IM that are all British records. Are they all European records as well?
The 3 backstrokes are European records.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Not the
fantastic.
IM and the freestyle, I think.
No. So when you're turning 60 then, have you got your eyes on these records? Were you none the wiser? Like where were you at?
The backstroke, yes. Yes, I'm looking at what I'd done before, but it was then I hadn't competed since 2017. I think I did one 800 race in 2018. I started off with the 800 thinking I'll do the decathlon this year, but not realizing I wasn't going to be back in the water for nearly 2 years. And then I had a big shoulder operation, and by the time I got back in, then COVID happened. So I didn't really quite know, although at the end of, what was last year? At the end of 21, we had the level X. So I did swim level X and thought, oh, I can still swim. That's all right. So I did think I could probably do the backstroke records. Didn't consider the 200 freestyle at all. But we had 200 freestyle, 4x200 freestyle relays coming up last year. We had a mixed and a ladies, and hadn't done a two. I'm not the best freestyler, and I haven't done a 200 freestyle probably for about 7 years. And I was just really nervous about letting them down because we thought we could break the world record
Wow.
in. And I thought, oh. So I really, really worked at my freestyle, and I tried to change my stroke a little bit. And yeah, that happened. I wasn't looking at being like breaking a British record at all. So I was very surprised and delighted.
And that's fabulous. It really is. Congratulations. You
And we
said
did break the world record
you
in
did.
the
Oh,
both the relays as
that's
well.
so fantastic. Well
And
done.
it was wonderful. That was just the best point of the whole year, I think, both of those.
I can totally imagine. So you said you'd changed your stroke. I'm intrigued. So what did you go from and to?
Well, I was just really, I used to think in training, I don't really pull with my arms at all. I just dip them in.
Yeah.
And I thought I really need to try and stretch them out further and pull through further. And a friend had a little look and she said, "You're not pulling at all. You just get into, you just," she said what I thought really. So I just really worked on stretching it out. And I bought some finger paddles. I've never used paddles because I've always had dodgy shoulders. But I thought finger paddles might help me feel the water. And so I've just really worked on trying to lengthen my stroke and pull right through, which is only what most people do, I suppose.
Yeah. So,
Uh,
so, so when you race a 200 freestyle or any freestyle now, I suppose, race not train, are you thinking about these things while you're racing? Are you thinking like long and strong with your stroke, or
yeah,
yeah, you are.
yeah,
Brilliant.
yeah. I don't think it's totally natural. It'd be easy for me to bash about, I think. So yeah, no, I am thinking about it.
Brilliant. We were having a conversation last week at work. We did like a big strength finders kind of course where we found out what our top 5 strengths were, and you know we kind of talked about them. And a strength that came up, which a lot of people in the room had, was competitive. That actually wasn't one of my strengths. But we were talking about the idea of being competitive, and I don't believe it's as black and white as you either are or you aren't, because I think there's different levels of it, different
Yeah.
varieties of competitiveness. There are some things I'm more competitive with, and some things that I couldn't care less how I do. What I would say generally about myself, and this applies to swimming, well, anything from swimming through to playing a board game with your family at the weekend. In the moment, I'm competitive, but the moment the race is over or the board game's over, I don't care. So I never let things kind of hang over me. You know, if
Yeah.
don't swim so well, once I've finished, I looked at my time, I'll have a few seconds where I go, oh damn it. But then that's it. Would you consider yourself competitive? Like where are you at on the scale?
I think I'm quite well. I don't even know if I'm quite as competitive as you, but I'm like you. Once it's done, it's done. Um, I think somebody did say to me once, "Oh, you're really competitive," and I thought, I don't think I am. I think
No.
I'm very competitive with myself.
Mm.
Um, I I always want to try and do better than I did before. I put myself under pressure to try and swim as well as I can swim, but I and like I said before, of course it's lovely to win. I don't mean that I don't want to win, but I don't care if I've swam well and I'm happy with my time. I don't actually care whether I've won or not.
Yeah, sure.
Um, I mean, obviously it's nice when you do. I don't mean that. It's really hard to, you know what I mean, don't you?
I'm exactly the same as you. I've often said, you know, in terms of national rankings, I don't actually care where I'm ranked. All I care about is that I feel like I'm improving, and if I'm
You've done the
improving,
best you
that's all
can
I'm happy
do.
with. Yeah, yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah. I'm like
Yeah,
that. And I'll swim against people, and I always say it's no disgrace in getting beat by these people in anything because they're great swimmers. And
yeah,
sometimes I'll beat them, sometimes they'll beat me.
yeah.
And I don't mind which way it is as long as I've swum well.
Yeah, completely agree. So,
Yeah.
another thing that's come up quite a lot in this conversation so far is the idea of shoulder injuries.
Mm.
So, you swim a lot. That's great. Do you do any land work or mobility work or any strength training or anything mobility wise to help your shoulders?
Uh, no, I know I should. um, I did used to do some TheraBand work for my shoulders, which I haven't done for a while. Um, but I don't do any strength and conditioning at all.
No?
I have done Pilates once a week for the last 10 years.
Okay.
That's because well, I still struggle a bit with my back, but it has really helped. And I do think I should do some strength and conditioning. Not necessarily for my swimming, but just for myself as I get older.
Mm.
I'm not I'm not very good at. I think if somebody came along and went, "There's a program. That's what you need to do twice a week," I'd do it. I'm a good patient or pupil. I'm just not very good at doing it. And if we had a coach who said, "That's what you need to do," I'd do it.
Okay.
Um, so I know I should, and I keep saying I should, and I keep not doing it.
Mm. So to bring the training to a kind of a round, then you've been in and out for many years. You're retired now, and you've been, well, I guess since COVID, you've been back in the game for a while. Would you say this is the most consistent you've been for quite some time?
Yes, yeah, definitely. And one of the guys I swim with, he said that I haven't known you'd be this consistent with
Yeah,
swimming, but it's because I can
yeah,
now more than anything. It's just because I've got the time to be able to do it.
yeah. No, that's brilliant. So looking at your records that you set last year, then so 2022, we've obviously gone over that. You set many records, which was brilliant. The most fascinating thing for me, there's 5 years difference between your records last year for the 60 to 64 age group and your records, 5 years earlier for the 55 to 59. The times are very similar. I mean, there's a slight marginal drop off, but they're pretty much as fast. So that's fascinating to me. You're aging like a fine wine, frankly. I mean, you're swimming more now, which is probably the answer, I guess. But
Yeah, I
but but
suppose.
but is there something that you put that down to, the fact that you're still as fast as you were 5 years ago?
I think no, I think it is being able to swim more, probably than I could more consistently. Maybe not being quite as tired. I was always, well, I'm still tired, but it's a different kind of tired, I think, than, when you're flogging away at work.
Mm,
Um, and I think maybe that competitiveness with myself of not really wanting to get slower. Nobody does, but I know I will. I know you do. You have to.
yeah.
But yeah, I think maybe it's partly that as well.
No, that's brilliant. So, I mean, you mentioned you've obviously got a son. Have you got any? You've got you've got your family. Are they all swimmers? Does your son swim? Yeah,
No, well, my husband swims and he also does triathlon. So that's great because he knows, well, he swims, every time I go in the morning, we'll most usually go together. Um, so he understands though if I've got a competition coming up that I'll want to go and do this session or that session. And so he's very supportive because he gets it. I
yeah,
think it must be hard being with someone who doesn't do sport at all. My son, he doesn't swim. He would have been a good swimmer if he'd swam. When I watched him do freestyle, I just think he'd be a really good freestyler if he trained. Watch him doing backstroke, and I think, is that really my son? But no, he plays rugby. He's captain of the rugby club close to where we live. And he loves that. He likes team sports really. But he says he's a very proud son, so that's nice.
Oh, no, that's lovely. That's lovely. So, well, when we came on this call, I, had you down as a British record holder. What we've established is you're also a European record holder and a world record holder as part of a relay team,
Yeah.
which is quite fantastic. And so, I mean, I'm intrigued to know, to hear from a world record holder, what does an ideal training session look like for you? So, distance wise, and what kind of things are you doing in the session?
Oh, an ideal one. An ideal one for me would be um, perhaps something like we did on Saturday, which was a warm up set, and then the main set was two 100s off 230, 475s off 130, I think, 850s off. No, maybe they were off 2 minutes because 850s off 130 and 825s off 45, I think, all
Mm.
best pace.
Yeah, yeah, brilliant.
Um, that would be my kind of ideal. I quite like something like 12 100s, 1 to 3 descending.
Yeah.
Your third ones are absolute max. I
Mm.
like, sounds daft to say it, but I like working hard. I like it when you're swimming well, and you've got to work for that pain. not just when you're feeling awful. Um, so I quite like race pace stuff, and I feel I don't really do enough of that. But then I do adjust sessions and sort of fit that in for myself.
I think I agree with you actually. I think there's various types of pain, isn't there? And I think for me, I enjoy
Yeah,
the pain of sprinting because with sprinting, I actually get a bit of a buzz from it. And that kind of fast turnaround of everything is fine for me. But I think when I'm doing swimming sets of 200s or 400s, obviously you're not going race pace, so I don't have that natural buzz of I'm sprinting here, but
yeah,
I just feel that slogging pain in my stomach, and
yeah. It's a different
pain harder.
pain.
They are different pains. I find that harder. Some people love that pain. That's not for me.
Yeah. Well, yesterday morning was 12 200s. So 5 off 3 minutes, and then 4 off 3:15 pull, and then 4 1 to 3 descend, 3 1 to 3 descending, and then it was 12 100s the thing. So I
Mm.
just got in for the last 4 200s and warmed up, and then I just did the 12 100s, and that was a good session for me. So I'm well in that.
Yeah, you'll have to send me that session. It sounds like my cup of tea actually. And I guess was all
Was
this
it?
freestyle or was it choice stroke?
Sorry,
Was that all freestyle or was it choice
that
stroke?
was freestyle, but sometimes I'll do those 12 100s backstroke instead.
Yeah, brilliant. No, that sounds really good. So over the years of swimming then, and all of the kind of records you've achieved individually and as relay teams, what's been your proudest moment as a swimmer?
Oh, um, oh, that's a good question. Proudest. I think actually when I broke my first European record, which would have been, I think, 2013 or four, I think I was 51 or 52, and I never expected to do that. So that was great, and I got to ring my dad and tell him, and my dad's always been my number one supporter. He and we always used to say when I was a kid, that we had won races, like
Mm.
we would win races over the kitchen table, because we talk about them, we talk about what I was going to do, how I was going to try and do it. And he loved sport, and he was always such a great sport. When I started swimming, masters, him and mum would come around, he'd come down to Sheffield. They'd come to various other galas, Blackpool, and still watch when they were able to. So just being able to ring him and tell him I'd done something and hear his voice was great.
So let's look ahead then. So we're at the start of 2023. You're very much in the game. You're very consistent, which is fantastic. I guess you've got a number of open meets lined up this year.
Yeah, I've got Carlisle next weekend, and then Blackpool, Northwest at Blackpool 2 weeks after that. And then I think, well, we're definitely going to do long course nationals because they're here at Sheffield, so it's not too far away. And obviously nationals in October, and then there'll be various other meets in between. But this year I'm going to really try and complete the decathlon,
Okay.
which I kind of had in my head last year, but didn't get anywhere near completing it. But so when I go to Carl, but we've decided that we've got women who we think can complete it. So we're going to see how we can do in the team event. So when I go to Carlisle, I'm doing decathlon events to try and get a good start on it.
Brilliant. And so is Carlisle your first competition of the year?
Carlisle's the first one, yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. So
I've
is
got
it
a 100
so
IM and a 200 IM and 100 free, 50 breast and 800 free. That's a very long way.
wow, that is a long way.
I just need to complete it though. So.
So it sounds like the decathlon is your, would you say that's your main goal for this year, or are there any more records you've got your eyes on?
That's kind of, I'd like to do the decathlon, but I always say I'd like to be able to swim better long course. I'm not a great long course swimmer. I just prefer short course. So I think maybe I want to try and be a bit braver swimming long course. I think I never seem to pace it quite right, and I don't think I'm as strong, but I need to try and be braver and get out there. And so I can look at what my times were from last year long course, and I would like to try and be better in all of them, 50, 100 and 200 back.
Brilliant. Oh, that sounds fantastic. And taking an even longer view then, obviously you never know what life's going to throw at you, shoulder injuries, all that kind of stuff. But do you see yourself now never stopping swimming and competing always?
Yeah, I do really. I mean, that's it. You never know. I mean, when I swam that one race in 2018, I didn't think I wasn't going to be back in the water for 2 years. And I think even now, I remember swimming something last year and saying, I think I'll just back off on this one for the next one. And somebody went, how do you know that's not going to be your last race?
Yeah.
And I went, oh, that's a good point.
Mm.
You don't, do you? But I think all things being equal, yeah, just it's a sport that you can keep going as long as you can keep going. I'm not a very poorly person. I don't get ill very often, but my body lets me down a lot,
Yeah.
as in shoulder will hurt or back will hurt. And so it's as long as my body will let me do it, I think.
Yeah.
But I think, I think just being able to keep going like somebody like Jane Asher. I mean, we all want to be Jane Asher, don't we?
No, she's absolutely the reference point. I
Absolutely.
enjoyed what you said about somebody called you out and said, well, you don't know if this is going to be your last race, because of course
Yeah.
Kath Tunnicliffe, who comes on the podcast quite a lot, she's very much an advocate of, you go into every competition like it's your last one, and
Right.
she's got such a phenomenal mindset for racing, which is really inspiring. But it sounds like you have a similar one.
Yes, possibly. And I did think that when they said that, I thought I really have to bear that in mind, because you don't know. You don't know what's going to happen in life, do you? And I'm absolutely fine, and my family are absolutely fine. But I've had a lot of people close to me who've had a lot of tragedy in this last year, some awful stories. And you do think, just you've got to do it while you can do it.
Absolutely. Well,
But I
please.
think swimming is, I mean, I've heard people say it on your podcast, just the community of swimmers is great, isn't it? The people I train with, they're such a lovely bunch. And we all love swimming together. We all encourage each other. And I love going away to competitions and seeing people I haven't seen for ages. And everyone's so pleased to see each other. There's just sometimes not enough time to talk
Yes.
around all the events you're doing on there.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I think that's why I love the Nationals so much, because
Yeah.
I mean, especially I've been obviously living in the southeast for many years, so going to Sheffield means you go and stay in Sheffield. You don't go home at the end of the night, and that really becomes the opportunity to have basically a weekend away with your teammates, which I think is really nice.
Yeah. I'd say we tend to not stay in Sheffield because we live so close.
Yeah.
But Aberdeen was great because obviously we stayed when we went up there, and
Mm.
that was lovely to be able to. We got a house, and there was just the four of us, but it was lovely.
Yeah, you kind of get into the whole you just live in your own swimmer's world, don't you, for that whole
Yeah.
weekend while you're away. And that's what I've always had with the Nationals. And I'm sort of conflicted this year because obviously now I've moved to Derbyshire. I can actually drive to Sheffield in 30 minutes, and I'm still competing for Tunbridge Wells down in Kent. So when all those guys come up, part of me will want to stay as well to
I
be
think you'll be staying.
stay exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Stay
Yeah,
for
I
the
think
meal
you'll be
out
staying.
and stuff. Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, listen, Julie, I really enjoyed that, and really inspiring
Me
chat.
too.
Shows that age is just a number, and you can just carry on getting
It
records
is.
faster. And it's so fantastic, and I'm really
It
glad.
is strange though. I sometimes say if people watched us and they watched us when we get out of the pool, we all get out going, oh, oh, oh. I say, they must go, how can they swim like that and then walk like that?
Yes, I know, absolutely.
But
So,
it's just a number and you have to make the most of it.
yeah, and I think what you said there about the pain that we all show when we walk out, I think it just shows it's a drug. The
Yes, it is, isn't it?
sport is a drug. So no, really enjoyed that conversation. Thanks so much for coming on, and I look forward to meeting you
Thanks for
soon.
having me.
On a competition, and best of luck with the decathlon.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Fingers crossed. 10 events.
Brilliant. Thanks, Julie.
Thank you.